I had eagerly awaited the arrival of this fateful week. "My lord, where are you going? And what if my voice can no longer reach your ears?" I feared that everything wholly within my grasp had suddenly vanished into thin air. Yet my body felt strangely lighter, and a new sense of security flooded into my restless soul. I remembered the supreme power that had once brought true joy to my heart. "I believed I fully understood the weight of your divine words spoken in secret." A man foolishly believed he could carry any heavenly gift without knowing its true weight. The young servant held the sacred seal with trembling and painful hands. He dared not promise that no evil would arise, for he knew not what he was capable of doing. The morning light presented the young captive directly before the throne of Solomon. The next morning, I ordered the guards to close the heavy doors of the royal throne room. When he lifted his hand with the holy seal, his inner resistance began to burn away like straw. In the name of the Most High God, the ancient spirits were forced to bend their knees. He felt no need to destroy them instantly, finding greater pleasure in tormenting them slowly. During the dark hours of the night, he subjected flesh and spirit to extract their secret power. The spirit smiled subtly and explained that the invisible world was filled with countless beings. Some lurked beside the sick and frail, feeding upon their declining breath. Others sowed discord and bitter hatred between families and ancient bloodlines. They were desperate to provoke violence and push powerful rulers into fruitless, bloody wars. Spirits roamed the dark winding paths, the deep abysses, and the highest regions of the air. Until that fateful moment, he believed he was battling merely a single road creature. Taking with him the sacred ring from the altar, he vanished into the silent twilight. As the days passed without rest, the heavy burden upon his heart only grew larger. I turned my horse back toward the dark forest, seeking answers in the shadows. While galloping through the woods, I realized order had been brought to the heart of the afflicted. A few hours after entering the dense forest, an unnatural cold began to chill my veins. I understood that I was standing face to face with Beelzebub, the prince of demons. He stood before me with the cold pride of a warrior unused to total defeat. "You possess something that rightfully belongs to my realm," the dark prince whispered. I commanded him with absolute authority to yield and surrender the sacred ring. For a tense instant, I truly believed he would dare defy my command. When I reached out to place it back upon my hand, the shadow inclined its head. He bowed not out of genuine respect for me, but because the altar's authority compelled his will. I began to interrogate him relentlessly, just as I had interrogated the spirit Ornias before him. I demanded to know his specific function within the hierarchy of the fallen realms. He answered that not all demons are created equal, nor do they wield the same malice. Some served as lowly messengers to those of far greater dominion and rank. Some acted directly upon human flesh, while others insidious worked within the mind. I had foolishly assumed that demons moved like mindless beasts without order or government. He revealed that they strictly obeyed commands, each occupying an ordained place in darkness. The first spirit took the breathtaking appearance of a woman of supreme beauty. I demanded to know her purpose and function among the sons of men. She replied that she kindled forbidden desires that destroyed homes and shattered families. Then another spirit presented himself as a dark archetype of pure malevolence. I asked who he was, and he answered simply, "I am the essence of destruction, a violent entity whose hollow eyes seemed to hold the fires of war and bloodshed." His joy was found in tearing apart that which God had joined in holy union. He needed not to raise a physical blade against innocent men to accomplish his wrath. He merely planted a seed of suspicion and allowed human weakness to complete the ruin. Others arrived in succession, confessing their sinister roles in the shadowy realm. Some admitted they weakened the frail, while others tormented lonely travelers in the night. A few confessed they hid behind holy words to deceive the hearts of the righteous. As I listened to their chilling confessions, I understood that suffering has many roots. There are evils born directly from our own poor choices and foolish ambitions. Yet there are also invisible forces that feast upon every spiritual death. The great temple continued to rise, built by a power no mortal man could sustain alone. I failed to comprehend that the very power I uncovered would become my ultimate downfall. In the days that followed, the construction advanced with frantic and unnatural speed. I ordered my human workers to return to their homes much earlier than usual. I had begun to deeply fear the invisible world, viewing it as a relentless enemy. Every demon revealed its secrets, and every command was obeyed without hesitation. Yet I failed to notice the subtle, dangerous shift taking place within my own soul. I stopped viewing the holy ring as a sacred burden and began to see it as my own power. I forgot the solemn truth that absolute authority belongs to God alone. With every spirit that bowed before my throne, divine words seemed to fade into memory. I naively believed that as long as the seal remained on my finger, no entity could touch me. The construction of the temple progressed in ways no man in Jerusalem could comprehend. The heaviest monoliths were moved effortlessly under the dark cover of night. Tasks that should have taken months were completed in a matter of mere days. The workers marveled at the speed, unaware of the dark labor serving the holy altar. Under the ring's unyielding authority, the demons labored in places no man could reach. Spirits raised massive stone columns, their strength far exceeding mortal limits. Beelzebub remained among them, humiliated by the labor yet never truly broken in spirit. He obeyed my every word while watching my decisions with a chilling, patient glare. I used to pronounce the name of the Most High before lifting the ring, recalling Michael's words. Yet as time passed, I ceased to be amazed by my dominion over the unseen world. I began to view that extraordinary authority as something I inherently deserved. It was then that I truly believed I had forever conquered the kingdom of darkness. I did not utter these arrogant thoughts before the high priests or elders. In my secret heart, I considered myself far superior to all kings who came before me. Where others fought with armies and iron swords, I had commanded unseen spirits. I had forced invisible horrors to build the holy house of the living God. I felt untouchable, as if no tragedy or ruin could ever reach my exalted height. I knew the ancient names of spirits and the angels before whom they trembled. I assigned them tasks like an emperor organizing his vast and endless empire. Beelzebub ruled over many, yet even he was bound by limits he could not cross. His silent obedience seemed to prove that his dangerous words possessed no real power. Today I realize he never intended to fight me, but rather to feed my growing ego. Temptation rarely arrives as a monster. It comes cloaked in admiration and glory. Emissaries from a distant foreign land arrived at the gates of Jerusalem. They brought rare gifts, precious metals, and exotic treasures to honor my name. Among them walked a noble woman of striking grace and unmistakable power. She showed none of the fear or hesitation seen in other visiting dignitaries. She observed the grand hall and fixed her gaze directly upon the seal on my hand. She had heard legendary tales of my wisdom and the supernatural speed of the temple. While others spoke of trade, treaties, and tributes, she asked if the rumors were true. My response sprang not from godly wisdom, but from a foolish desire to impress her. Noma belonged to a people who worshipped foreign idols and ancient pagan gods. From the first moment, my spirit warned me to keep a safe and holy distance. Yet I convinced myself that my faith was too rock solid to ever be shaken. I foolishly thought I could draw near to her heart without endangering my soul. In the days that followed, I sought endless excuses to prolong her stay in the city. I spoke with her at length about her homeland, her customs, and her ancestral gods. Each conversation awakened a dangerous curiosity that had no place in a king. I believed I had conquered the dark realm, ignorant that its prince was playing me. Beelzebub needed only to wait for my own pride to accomplish what force could not. My wisdom warned me of the cliff ahead, but my foolish heart refused to listen. She spoke softly of mutual respect, diplomatic alliances, and simple gestures of peace. She assured me it was not necessary to abandon my God to honor her heritage. Her words sounded so reasonable and gentle, finding a fertile place in my mind. The great temple columns stood in their places, showing unprecedented splendor. Every passing day seemed to confirm that the demonic seal was still under my command. I did not understand that a spiritual gift can remain in a man's hands even after grace leaves. Beelzebub observed my subtle downfall in complete silence, offering no resistance. Sometimes I caught him watching me with an expression I mistaken for bitterness. Noma finally asked me to accompany her to a private shrine outside the city walls. She assured me that my mere presence would be an everlasting sign of peace. I should have refused instantly, but my arrogance told me I was far too strong. The pagan altar was small, surrounded by flickering torches in the quiet night. As I held the simple offering, the holy ring felt unnaturally heavy on my finger. The sweet scent of incense rose, and I recalled the forest, Michael, and his warning. Inner voice screamed at me to turn away and leave, yet I remained frozen. I placed the offering upon the altar and watched the dark fire consume it completely. To those standing there, it seemed a harmless act of royalty and diplomatic grace. Yet deep within the sanctuary of my soul, something precious shattered beyond repair. The physical world continued as before, and the silence made me think I was safe. Then, without warning, the golden ring upon my finger turned ice cold. I returned to Jerusalem before dawn, walking in shadow alongside Noma. My mind shouted warnings, but my physical flesh refused to yield to truth. Time slipped away, and she moved into the palace as my heart drifted further. My plans shifted entirely. I no longer sought to glorify God, but to please her. I began to view luxury, ease, and pagan indulgence as necessities of my life. I rationalized my sins, telling myself that a great king deserved every pleasure. I had forgotten the holy law and the solemn covenant of my fathers. I built shrines for her gods, foolishly believing I could balance light and darkness. I thought I could step into the abyss and return unscathed whenever I wished. I believed I could hold onto my divine faith while indulging my earthly lusts. It was a tragic illusion to think my heart could remain pure while defying God. I listened to her sweet justifications until her pagan logic became my own. I convinced myself that building her temples was merely an act of love and tolerance. That was the first great lie I spoke without words, sealing my own condemnation. I feared the judgment of the priests, yet I feared losing her affection even more. I still spoke of the Lord with my lips, but my heart was light years away from him. I even used the enslaved spirits to haul stones for the pagan altars I built. They obeyed without complaint, a dark, sinister satisfaction gleaming in their eyes. When building the Lord's temple, they groaned. When building idol shrines, they smiled. I mistook their quiet obedience for subjection, blind to their subtle victory. I was using authority given by the Most High to erect monuments to dark idols. Every stone laid in those high places dragged my soul deeper into spiritual death. I still wore the seal and spoke holy names, but the divine life within me had died. A man can keep the vocabulary of faith long after his heart has abandoned God. When her foreign temple was complete, she asked me to offer one final sacrifice. She promised it would not be true worship, merely a tribute to her people's honor. I had compromised so many times that one more sin felt entirely harmless. That night, I walked to the altar, believing I was still in control of my fate. As I bowed, the scales finally fell from my eyes, revealing my complete ruin. I realized then that I had never truly mastered the demons by my own power. They had obeyed only because I once stood under the shadow of the Almighty. Now, stripped of divine protection, I was just a fragile man holding cold metal. For years I tried to justify my fall, blaming love, diplomacy, and politics. Time has forced me to face the brutal truth. I chose my desire over obedience. Michael had warned me that power was not mine. Beelzebub showed me my pride. Yet neither angels nor demons caused my downfall. I opened the door myself. I write these words so no future king mistakes my tale for a victory over darkness. I saw the unseen world and forced ancient spirits to bow before my throne. Yet all that miraculous power was useless, for I could not govern my own heart. The heart was the one enemy I never truly conquered or brought into submission. I did not abandon the Most High in a single day of wild rebellion. First, I ceased to pray with humility. Then, I twisted his holy commandments. I came to believe I could keep his favor while using his gifts for my self-glory. The sacred seal was meant to build the house of God, not to exalt my own name. The greater the spiritual authority granted to a man, the greater his accountability. What began as a glorious dream of divine favor ended in utter spiritual solitude. An idol is not merely stone or gold, but anything we place in the room of God. The true power of an idol lies in what our hearts are willing to sacrifice for it. My flesh promised I could enjoy the sin without forfeiting the holy gift. I fed the very desire that was silently severing my connection to the divine. When the illusion shattered, I saw that my worst enemy was never outside my walls. My own corrupted desire hid behind clever arguments that sounded like wisdom. It weaponized my vast knowledge to build a defense for my ongoing disobedience. A ruler can govern vast empires and be praised for wisdom, while his soul rots. God gave me unparalleled wisdom to shepherd his people, yet I used it for self-lust. I spent a lifetime exposing the deceit of idols, only to bow before them at last. The veil fell only when I could no longer confuse God's mercy with my own strength. Now I know the goal was never to demonstrate how much power my hand could hold. Tragedy strikes when a man speaks God's name while his heart serves his own will. I fell into the traps of the flesh and drove the presence of God from my life. Yet in my utter brokenness, these words remain as a warning to all generations.